everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Mika Wilkerson Show. I'm pretty excited about today because we're going to talk about a serious topic, but it's very fun and informative, and it's good to find out what you can do to help out with climate change. My guest today is Karen and is an adult service public library reference librarian. She is also a climate science educator. And to do that, she uses a variety of different presentations, such as the En-ROADS Climate Solution Simulator, and she has developed in many hands-on activities for participating learners. So I'm going to let her go into more detail. I'm speaking to Karen Jeffers-Tracy. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I'm always happy to come and talk about climate change and climate science and what people can do.
Absolutely. And now what I first wanted to get into is we are going to dive into certain aspects of climate change, and we are going to start off discussing something called climate bites, and I'm going to let her talk a little bit more about that.
Okay. I realized that people don't have time to learn about climate change, and therefore they don't know enough to support positive proposals when they arise. So, and often they're very resistant or obstructionist to things that really need to happen, and then it would be good for everyone. So I developed this thing called Climate Bites, which is just a shared Google document. People can go on and they can get a short, pithy chunk of climate information that they can read at city council. They can, copy and leave places. They can tell their friends. They can post on social media. So there's just a little paragraph of some kind of climate science information that most people aren't aware of.
Now, how do we, getting kind of more detailed into climate change, how do we know the warnings we are seeing is due to human activity?
There are multiple lines of evidence that show this. So it's not just one thing. It's kind of like Sherlock Holmes when you're looking for what caused this murder, what caused this crime right here. You're looking for all the different lines of evidence that prove what happened. And in climate science, we look at evidence above, on, and below the surface of our planet. So there's satellite data, there's tree ring data, there's ice core samples, there's a whole network of ocean temperature buoys, these large, enormous things, bigger than this room, and they collect data in the ocean, both on the surface. Some of them float with the current, and some of them are down deep, and some of them float on top. And this and the scientists go around and get the data from them on a regular basis. I think people also aren't aware of how much human effort has gone into this over so many years. There are places like in Antarctica where every single day at the same time of day, a scientist has trekked out across the frozen land to take a temperature reading for 50 years. And that collection of data is how we know that humans have caused this particular round of change in our climate. There are many drivers of climate. Those are drivers of climate of what causes Earth's climate. And this time around, humans have been the causal factor.
Ooh, well, hearing that kind of leads me to my next question. Could it be natural cycles that are making the Earth warm?
To answer that, we would talk about what are natural cycles. What does make Earth's climate?
Right.
And there are several factors, but one of the basic underlying factor is Earth's orbit. So the actual Milankovitch cycles are the three parts of Earth's orbit. The shape of the orbit, so it could be over a period of thousands of years, it goes from circular to oval and then back to circular again.
Oh, okay.
And then the Earth has a wobble to it, kind of like a top when it's just about to stop spinning, it wobbles like this.
Yeah.
So you can picture like the top going like this. And then it has a wobble and a spin and then the shape of the orbit. Now the shape of the orbit, if you're in a period that is more elliptical, the sun's in the center, you can see that we'd be going further from the sun and closer to the sun and further from the sun as we orbit. And that tends to have periods of more erratic and wild weather on Earth. The more circular orbit is known as more a Goldilocks climate because it's more even. Okay, I mean, it's not a perfect circle, but it's less elliptical. And that's a more Goldilocks, or, not too hot, not too cold, kind of has a better range of temperatures for us, the kind that we like.
So we're still in that safe zone when we're approaching that area.
Well, that's what I usually say, okay, so if these are the drivers of Earth's climate, and, if elliptical is more wild weather, what do you think we're in now? And people would say, well, we're in wild weather, so we must be in the elliptical one. And actually, no, we're in the exact opposite. We would have had another 10,000 years of pretty much Goldilocks climate for us if we hadn't messed it up by adding 40 gigatons of excess carbon dioxide pollution into the atmosphere every year.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Hearing all this, I love hearing about this kind of information because I need to know myself, and I know people that they just don't know where to start. It's a lot of information. It's a lot to learn. It's a lot to absorb. Some people might feel overwhelmed, and that could make people walk away from it. But even though it's overwhelming, take your time, go at your own pace. Don't feel like you got to know everything right now. And that was my issue. I wanted to know everything right now, read everything, and then I would overwhelm myself, get confused, and then back away a little bit because you got to avoid the disinformation. So, which leads me into talking about fossil fuels. Why must we stop dealing with fossil fuels?
Right. So we all inherited a system designed to maximize the use of fossil fuels, and fossil fuels are coal, oil, and gas. And this system wasn't meant to conserve them at all. It's the whole development of the highway system and suburbs were meant to use as much as possible to maximize the profits of these companies as much as possible. Right. The development of plastics. I remember in the, I think it was the early 70s, when I was a kid, but my grandfather and my father were just bemoaning the fact that all the appliances were coming out plastic, and before any appliances were metal and had metal parts, and they could just machine a part if they needed it and fix the darn thing. And now if a plastic piece broke, they couldn't fix it, or it was even came in a sealed thing that you couldn't fix. It was meant to be single use. So this whole it's been a multi-year project of enriching these corporations and their business model, and their business model exploits the nature of the planet, exploits the environment for their own profit, and we pay the price. So they don't even have to figure the bottom line in their figures, in their profiteering. They don't have to count that. It's called an externalization of profit, which means that the burden is placed on the community and the environment. We pay the price for their profit.
Well, tell me a little bit more about, where are we at in this country right now with fossil fuels? Are we in a dangerous time? Or do we have time in order to make changes so that this isn't affecting us on a permanent scale? Or
there's so much going on geopolitically right now, with the Strait of Hormuz and the, whether we're going to have a shortage of our fossil fuels. The United States is a net exporter of fossil fuels, so we shouldn't actually have a shortage. The reason the prices are going up is just because the companies said, hey, we can exploit the system to decide that there's going to be a, if we pretend there's a shortage, we can raise the price, pretty much.
Right.
And where are we? Well, we are dependent on the system. I mean, we have been built, everything has been built that way. The public transit system, there was a wonderful documentary made by a Wright State professor called Taken for a Ride, which is free on YouTube. And it shows how the public transit systems were systematically bought up and dismantled by Chevron, or by General Motors. So that here in Dayton, we used to have a very clean, fast, efficient public transit trolley system where people could live outside the city, get up in the morning, jump on a trolley, go to work, have the trolley come take them back at, after work. And that was bought up and dismantled. So they buy it up and then they take away a few lines, and then they say, then people can't use it because it's not as efficient. And then they say, oh, people aren't using it, so we should get rid of it.
Wow.
And I just think that would have been fun to hop on a trolley.
Right. I think you're talking about the downtown trolley. I did it one time. It's been like the 90s was the last time I tried to get on one.
Well, it used to be all over. I mean, it used to be very fast and efficient, and you could go everywhere with it. And it was, economical for people too. But now, they just want people to rely more and more on cars and on plastic. And now some areas of human activity have benefited greatly. So, for instance, my vision of the future is that we would transition some things that are easy to transition away from fossil fuels. So our heating and our cooling and our transportation. But things like medical, I think that we would save some of our carbon budget, which we don't have any carbon budget really, we're already beyond it. But we would use some of the fossil fuels that we have left to for medical, for care flights and things that we need, we really need that for.
Okay. Well, we're like with fossil fuels where we are in this country right now. Is there, with the dependency you say we have on these things, is there a way to even start dialing it back since we depend so much on it?
Well, Dayton is in a great position because we have a climate emergency declaration in the city, and we have a climate plan in the city, and Miami Valley Regional Planning as well is helping with designing better transit systems and helping to plan for cleanup of certain areas, and they're just doing so much good in the city to try to implement many ways to use less energy overall, really is the goal. We can stop fossil fuels, which stops the excess carbon dioxide going into the atmosphere, which is what is warming the planet, and methane. But even that, at this point, that would have helped 50 years ago, but now we need to lower our overall energy use entirely. So even if it's coming from renewable sources, we still need to be careful with it and use as little as possible, because all of our energy use warms the planet. Wow. But it's not as polluting as fossil fuels. Fossil fuels is the main pollution source for global warming.
Now, I'm going to divert out of this conversation a little bit because I'm wondering greenhouse gases. Like, can we discuss that a little bit?
Yeah. So greenhouse gases are emitted from the burning of fossil fuels. So the main ones are carbon dioxide and methane. Methane you often hear about coming from factory farming, and we do have huge facilities all over our country that grow the meat that people eat in large concentrated areas of animals, and that produces methane. So carbon dioxide in the atmosphere takes about 10 to 30 years to reach its maximum warming potential. So it hangs around a long time. So what came out of our tailpipes today is going to be there 30 years into the future, creating warming for the planet. And then methane doesn't last as long. It might last 10 years, but it's also has a higher warming rate. So it's stronger in its warming capacity, but it's also doesn't last as long. So those are the two main ones that we're worried about. There's also there are others, but these are the main greenhouse gases that we're concerned about. And there's also, if you look at gas plants, there's this cool camera. I think it's called a FLIR camera, which is thousands of dollars, but some of our groups have bought one, gone together and bought some, so you can use it to look at facilities near you. Yeah. And you can see the leakage. There's so much leakage. And like the whole fossil fuel system of energy is so inefficient and polluting. So the methane plants which are, called natural gas. That's what they named it. Natural gas is
Right.
methane. Um, so you take the camera and point it, and you can see all the cracks where it's all going up into the atmosphere, just venting everywhere. And internationally, they started using satellites to look at where they were leaking so they could tell the company, hey, clean this up.
Right.
So what did the companies start doing? They started building little sheds. They didn't want to clean up the leaks. They just built sheds so the satellites couldn't see the leaks.
Oh my gosh. That's a dirty way to play the game.
Easier and cheaper. Yeah. Cheaper,
Right.
more profits. So I think human profiteering is really at the heart of this. We really need to stop that. We need to, don't put the worst people in charge.
Yeah, so like with you leading from that part, it kind of makes me think about when you say like, why do climate advocates say we have less than 10 years with this, to live, or I don't know.
Yes.
I'm not quite sure where they're going with it, but
Right. Good. So people don't understand that, and I know that it's been misrepresented in the media and by the Denier campaign. When we say that we have a certain amount of window of opportunity, that means we have a window of opportunity to set the conditions in place, which will be in place for thousands of years. It could take thousands of years to remedy the damage that we've caused in the last 50 years. But if you take an ice cube out of the freezer and put it on the table here, it's going to melt because the conditions around it have changed. What we are setting in the next 5 years is going to set the conditions for the polar ice caps to melt eventually in the future. So the ice isn't melting that minute I take it out of the freezer, right?
right.
But I can guarantee it's going to, because the conditions around it are warm, right?
Starts warming it up slowly but surely, as
Yes.
opposed to directly. Yeah.
Yes, and you can guarantee that it is going to melt. So that's what's happening now. We are setting the conditions in place to guarantee that we will have an ice-free Arctic. And civilization is not compatible with an ice-free Arctic. In other words, if you love anything that you want to pass on to future generations, like art and music and dance and fun and movies and anything you love, that's dependent on civilization. Civilization is a marvelous network where people have developed things and spread and passed them forward to the next generation, which then added to that development and passed that forward. Think of any kind of art. Like I know one that fascinates me is knitting and weaving.
Yes.
Those patterns and the methods, they developed over many, many years and generations, with every generation adding to what was given to them.
It's amazing how that goes, huh?
Yeah, no one person could sit down and come up with all that, could just develop it from scratch. It was a process of humanity giving forward what they had learned and developed. And that is... that's just so that's dependent on civilization. It's dependent on having enough peace and enough to develop art and to share what's good in life with each other. And that's what's threatened, because we can't so people could ask, why is an ice-free Arctic not compatible with civilization?
Right.
Well, much of our biggest cities, ports, commerce, museums, they're along waterways. Civilization developed along waterways because water's important to humans, right?
Right.
So those are all going to be affected by sea level rise. If you're on the coast, or if you're inside the continent, you'd be affected by flooding rivers. There's drought deluge happens with climate change. So you get a drought, you don't get enough water, then you get a deluge, which washes away the topsoil. Food systems are threatened. We'll be growing less food. In fact, all the food around the world, our major crops, have already been reduced by 5% by climate change. 5%.
Wow.
Yeah, and 5% is actually a huge number when you look at the number of people that means go into starvation from that. Corn, wheat, soy, oats, those kind of crops have all been diminished by climate change.
It's just scary when you think about where we're going to be at with if crops keep diminishing, things keep happening. I know we're going to get to a point of no return because not to bring another website or information into this because I'm not sure until I do my own research. I don't know if you've ever heard of Job One for Humanity. Doesn't? Yeah, I started. They release all this information. They're where I got the information about. We're in a critical point of no return. They're where I learned that from. That's why I wanted to get into that details with you and learn more, and then also learn about asking you about parts per million. I was very interested in that topic.
Okay. So parts per million counts the amount of carbon dioxide or greenhouse gases in our atmosphere. And for many, many decades, Mauna Loa Observatory has been one of the official sites to measure that. And they pretty much, it's a calculation in like a square foot of air, how many carbon dioxide molecules are in there. So parts per million, this is interesting. So like picture a rope from here to Columbus. And then imagine that rope is the entire time that humans have been on Earth. That's a timeline of human history. Civilization started when on that rope? Like civilization meaning modernity, our modern lifestyle.
Right.
So our modern lifestyle, mainly boosted by fossil fuels, started around, 1750s when a lot of coal started burning. After 1750 is when parts per million started to go up in the atmosphere. On that rope, it'd be like in this room would be when modernity started.
Right.
Because humans have been on the planet since, even
we probably can't even remember.
Yeah. But I know people have different opinions about that too, if they have certain
how life began, when it began, stuff like that.
When we changed from hominids to Homo sapiens, but I will say that so in that timeline of human history, if you imagine as far as it goes, where did parts per million start to go up? All the hominids and all the humans that lived on Earth lived under 300 parts per million in the atmosphere of carbon dioxide. Under 300. All the way up until my grandfather was born in 1900. So in 1900, parts per million were still 300. So he was the last generation of humans on Earth to be born at the same as all the humans back to the beginning of humans. In 1900. And then when his daughter was born, my mother, it was already at 303. When I was born, it was at 310. When my daughter was born, it was at 350. And 350 is what scientists tell us is the highest safe limit. When her daughter was born, it was already in the 400s, 412. And now it's at 424. So it has not been decreasing, it's been increasing. And these big countries that say, oh, we've lowered our fossil fuel emissions, look how good we are, we've lowered it. They haven't lowered it enough, and all they've done is displace it. So in other words, let's put our manufacturing in another country so we don't have to count it as part of our emissions. So it's not a real calculation. Fossil fuel emissions, our parts per million have been rising and rising and rising. And that, the more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, the more heat is held in our atmosphere, the more that heats the ice, the more the ice melts. And then the other things happen from that, like the AMOC is the circulation in the ocean that is slowing down because of the huge influx of the melting glaciers putting fresh water. Greenland mainly is putting fresh water there. And that's exactly where it's supposed to turn. The overturning current is the warm water comes up from the south and then moves up the east coast of the United States, goes across the ocean toward England, and it's supposed to dive down and go back south. They call it a conveyor belt
Okay.
because it pushes the warmth from the south up to the north, and then the north down to the south. Brings
Wash,
yeah
rinse,
brings
repeat.
that water back down, and then so that you get it's kind of like circulation in your house, makes all your rooms comfortable.
Right. Takes a while, but like you
Yeah.
have to keep looping, and then it finally
Yeah,
comes
these
down.
are these are ocean currents.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I meant like
Yeah.
comparing to like how our
Yes,
home's
in your
cooling
house.
down.
Yes, I know. Your house has to, like, if you try to just blast air into a closed room, it doesn't have anywhere to go. So it won't move.
Right.
And so in this conveyor belt in the ocean, when the fresh water comes out, it changes the salinity, which keeps it from dropping down and moving back south the way it's supposed to. So, there's going to be some extreme consequences from that. England might end up frozen, might end up, because the warmth from the south isn't warming it anymore.
Yeah, it
won't be
feels like
warming
there's
it.
some odd places that we are hearing about that are getting some of the strangest weather I have ever heard of. Like snow's dropping there for the first time ever. Like,
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff freaks me out and creeps me out. Where I'm like, okay, when you see abnormal weather issues happening in other places, like, okay, how critical are we at a point in this country right now where we need to start having all hands on deck, and people need to stop brushing it off, laughing it off as a hoax. But there's something driving this violent weather.
Yes, exactly. And it's the greatest work we could all do. I mean, of course, there's urgent work that we need to help our neighbors with, people that are hurting or in pain or desperate right now. And that's a lot of good-hearted people don't work on climate because of that. They say, this is right in front of me. I need to help with what's right in front of me now.
Right.
But the trouble is, if we ignore climate change, we won't be able to help everyone. It's going to get worse and worse. So one of the things we need to do is encourage our city councils and our elected officials, at the state level, well, federal, state, local, township, whatever you need to educate them. They need to understand why climate change is a priority now, and that all development decisions need to be filtered through that lens. So if there is a conservation land that they want to rezone and put into high density development, that's a climate decision right there.
Right.
Ohio has wetlands that are precious all over the world. Our wetlands affect the climate all over the world. Our wetlands sequester carbon. And every time a wetland is drained and then you put some apartments on it, that affects the entire planet, not just us.
Right.
So that's why these development decisions need to have a bigger view. We're stewards of something that can help the entire world here in Ohio. And Ohio is positioned to be able to lead the nation. We could. If we had a vision, yes,
Okay.
if we had a vision, we could lead the nation because we have water, we have beautiful, fertile soil, we have plentiful good water left for us. Much of it in Ohio was left by the glaciers 10,000 years ago. So 400 feet beneath our feet is a giant aquifer left by the glaciers.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, a huge underground lake. Beautiful water. So we have, and then of course we have the lakes and the rivers. We're well set.
Right.
Ohio could have a fiber shed, which means growing our own fiber for our all kinds of things: clothing, bags, fences, mats, rugs. Fibers used for so many things. Rope making. We have water. So watershed, food shed, fiber shed. Those are the way to look at how do we develop a more regenerative system in getting our needs met.
So we're going to get into more about climate bites and what people can do to, you said, speak to the council, to different people. Go ahead and talk about that.
Well, getting educated about climate is really important, and there are some other presenters who you can learn really easily from on YouTube. So there's one called ClimateAgents. He is a British climate scientist, and he also tries to make his short and interesting. There's another channel called Climate Town. The climate scientist is named Raleigh Williams. And he also, his was more of a deeper dive, so his are a little longer, but they're very interesting and funny. He throws in his own humor. So those are two good ways for people to start to get up to speed on climate change.
That was my next question with you, like wondering what people that are beginners so they won't feel overwhelmed, what can they read, what websites can they visit, what books, if you can give me any and all references so someone will not get overwhelmed, like I was telling you, like you read it and you like, oh my gosh, is this true, is this not true, what is this, and then you want to put it down because you're tired of trying to figure it all out. So I will let you tell the beginner's book all the way to what they want to look to when they start advancing.
And you can also check out my YouTube channel called Climate Agents, ClimateAgents3704. I guess there were other people who had that great idea.
Right.
Yeah, but that's mine. So that was a show that I did at DATV a year ago, and now I'm going to start again next September.
I can't wait. I cannot wait because like I said, I listened to your episode and I was like, okay, I want to hear more. I want to listen to more.
So, and there are different groups they can join. A lot of the major groups are doing really well. They're doing important work on climate, and the whole push to educate about the AI data centers is also climate action.
I've been seeing on the news, about that, because I thought, like, what's the big deal, right? See, that's why I was telling you people need to understand and know. I was like, what's the big deal? I love AI, but then I started hearing about it inhaling and sucking up the water and using that to cool them down, and that we're going to get to a point in this country where the water is being taken up so much that it's going to be restricted to us. I've been hearing about that.
Yes, and water should be a human right. When anyone born on Earth deserves the rain, the water, the soil, they need to have their basic, that should be our birthright, being born on Earth. Everyone.
That's what I said. Speaking about the water thing, I don't know if you heard about that. Like I've been hearing about water control for a long time. They're talking about water getting to the point where people were catching it in buckets, and they were trying to say they weren't allowed to catch the rain and catch their own water. And I'm like, are you serious? So, and there was something that came out here at DATV like years ago that was called Who Owns the Rain? And I've been hearing about, there's some members that put it together, and they said, and it was surrounded around that story of, you're going to tell me I can't catch my own water out of the sky, like you don't own the sky, but they literally are trying to use that.
I know, that's crazy. I don't understand it. I know there are places in Arizona where they have built new homes that have no water.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they have to truck.
What's the purpose in that?
They have to truck in their water, or they were promised water and then the city said, no, we don't have enough, so you have to truck in your water. That's crazy, yeah. But Ohio has wonderful water, and that's why they want to put a lot of AI data centers here. Probably 60 of them. They want them all over the state. Right. They want to use up our precious soil, our farmland, and use up our precious water. The aquifer is a limited resource. We are not going to have another glacier coming back to give us more. That was 10,000 years ago that glacier left it, and we're not having another one. So that is a precious resource we cannot waste, and we cannot have it polluted. It would be very difficult to clean that water if it was polluted. So there are several groups working on AI data centers. One of my favorites is called Halt the Harm Network. Halt the Harm Network, and it is a collaboration of states that touch the Ohio River. And it's has a nice database so people can learn all the things they need to learn in order to speak up to their city council and go to these, public hearing events.
So you're okay with people verbatim using those climate bites that you're talking about, like no one will have to worry about, like, oh gosh, she copied her work type of thing, so they can say whatever you're using. Yes,
and I hope they would feel secure that as a librarian I've done my very best to make sure that they're accurate, and they don't have to worry about and if they are questioned about it or someone says it's not true, they can contact me directly, and I will help them speak to their city council. I know I talked to an elected rep and who said that she wanted to learn more about climate change, and I said, oh well, I do a adult class once a month, the first Tuesday of every month at the Fairborn Library.
Now that I know that, I want to come. I will be there.
Oh, well, it's tomorrow night at 6:30, the first Tuesday of the month, and
the next one.
Okay, yeah.
This is my grandbaby. I gotta have my grandbaby.
Yeah. So, but she said, I just don't have time. So I gave her some things to read, and I thought they were very short. And she said, I don't have time for all these. Give me one, not 10.
Yeah, we're in the age of time right now where it's like everybody wants those little quick, give me snippets so I can learn it instead of reading the long version.
Yeah, it's very hard. People don't have time, and there's so many urgent things happening. People are, they're trying to stack the staff. What's the word? I hope you edit this out. Trying to make sure the food banks are full.
Oh, so fully stocking.
Stocking. That's the word.
I understand more than you know. You have nothing to. Because my brain is like every other minute, so it's okay.
So they're trying to stock the food banks and take care of their neighbors and look at current crisis of look how high the gas prices are going and the grocery prices are going, and people are just at their wits' end. They're trying their best to survive in this. Some people are very comfortable and they aren't looking at how hard it is for everyone else, and they really don't care unless it affects them directly. That is really sad. I would like people to look around and realize that their own comfort depends on a civil society. It depends on everyone having enough and having their basic needs met and, having a decent, dignified life. And so it's our responsibility as part of a society to take care of each other. That's what civilization is. That's what our society is. And so what can people do about climate change? One of the main things, educate yourself so you can't be fooled by the disinformation, because there is a $1 billion disinformation campaign out there.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And some of it is fueled by bots. If I make comments on social media, I get about 20 comments by bots underneath. Just because
it's annoying. It's really annoying. Like, why are you putting these things out to put disinformation? Like, do you want us all to die? Or maybe some people have that type of mentality. Like, why are you okay with this happening? You see, and it's not like we're going, this is happening and we're not seeing anything.
Yeah.
We are seeing the drastic weather changes. We are seeing how severe they are. We are seeing the body counts build up. Like, when are we going to get to a point where you understand that we are here, and if we don't start making changes now, I don't want to hear complaints about, we could have done something sooner. If we get to a point of no return, you cannot be upset. We're just going to have to roll with the punches.
Exactly.
So,
what we do right now today sets conditions in place for the next thousands of years.
Exactly.
And it's not, my goal is to save enough of civilization so that the future scientists can maybe come up with something that we haven't thought of yet. We just don't have all the ideas yet. We don't have all the technology yet. But if they have flooded universities and, if they have their laboratory went down in a mudslide, they won't be able to innovate the things that they need. Mm-hmm. So our job is to reduce our overall energy use, encourage a transition to renewable energy for the things that we really need, and to really stop wasting.
Huh. This is so informative, and like I said, I have every intention on attending your classes. Like, this is not a bluff for the interview type of answer, because I want to be part of the solution, not the problem. And I don't want to be one of these people that's going, whatever. And then when next thing you know, your home's getting washed away down the shore. And then I'm like, maybe I should have listened, or I wouldn't be traveling right now. There's some people out there that laugh at it and go, climate change with you, but you're one of those. Yeah, I am one of those. And if you want to live, you might be one of those people too. So.
Yeah, and I hope people will care for the future too.
Exactly.
Your grandbaby, or your babies that are born today are going to suffer from what we do today.
Amen.
And I want them to.
I want to leave a better planet for my grandson and for my nieces, my nephews. Like, this may not matter to them now. They're young, partying, and everything else is more important. But the older they get, hopefully it kicks in.
Yeah. I had a young person tell me the song, Wake Me Up When It's All Over, When I'm Wiser.
Right. We're wiser, but then it's like too late. Like,
She said that was the theme song for her generation.
oh, honey, you're breaking my heart.
Well,
I get it. I get why you're crying. It's just like, oh.
These young people, they see that we're not doing enough. What are we doing? We're escaping. We're going on cruises.
Trying to blank out all the chaos and the craziness going on.
Yeah. Flying whenever we want to. If it's there, Homo sapiens are going to use it. If it's on the table and it's a tool, we'll grab it and use it, whether it destroys the future or not.
You know what's sad? We're in a time right now where there's a lot of people that just don't care. They really don't. And I'm just like, I look at some people, all we see is the selfishness, and people don't want to help each other. They don't care. I just want to live. I want to party. And I was like, do you see what's going on around you? Yes, the world's burning, but you better do something. If we come together and you form a strong fist, we can fight. So.
Well, and that's why governmental policies are needed. Ohio has a new caucus. It's the Progressive Caucus of the Ohio Democratic Party, and it just was. It's brand new. It was in the works for a year, and it just got certified or something, made official just a couple months ago. They have they're designing and have written a beautiful vision for Ohio, for how Ohio could lead the nation in many areas, not just climate and environment, but in many areas.
Ohio's a strong force to lead so many things. Like we are, Ohio's small but mighty.
And we have many resources that could be used properly. So I would encourage people, if they're interested, to look up the Ohio Democratic Party Progressive Caucus. Soon they'll be releasing that policy document, which shows a beautiful vision for how things could work and what we could do. It does need to be policy, though, because of what I said before. If polluting things are on the table, we're going to use them because they're convenient. So we need policy to make sure everyone's participating for the benefit of the planet, because we depend on the planet to live.
Right, because I can see how passionate you are. You are so passionate. And watching you tear up about broke my soul. Like, oh my goodness. Because it's people like you that are going to help. The others give a darn. Like, I just sitting near you, and I can feel it, and I can hear it. When I listened to your podcast, which was the cutest beginning I have ever heard in my life.
Oh.
I was like, oh, sweet mother God. I was like, I wish I would have thought of this. Like, it was so cute, because I think I remember, like, ba, 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 ba. I forgot what beat you used, but it was so cute. I was like, goodness. Please do your beat. How she starts her podcast, and this is how you will find it, by the way, to make sure you have the right one.
Wait.
Yes. That's what she did, and I'm like, that's the best opener I've heard from anybody anywhere. Like, I'm like, why didn't I do this? And then I started getting bummed out. Like, maybe I need to find my own. Like, so I get it. Yeah.
So as far as young people, well, I do this for all ages, but I happened to do the Dayton STEM high school.
Oh, really?
And I did 100 kids. It was an all-day event. I did half in the morning, like 50 in the morning, 50 in the afternoon. And we did.
Age? I'm sorry, I've been interrupted.
These were 16. They were sophomores.
So were they engaged, or was it a lot of, how kids can be, where they don't want to learn at that certain age? And is she going to talk about a party or what?
No, they were on it. They were well prepared. They knew so much. And I have to tell you, the discussions in this event, I've done hundreds of these events for college age, for communities, for different groups of adults. I used to do it 4 times a year at Wright State. But I will say this group of 16-year-olds had the deepest conversations of any group I've ever done. They just inspired me with how they put things together. So at one point, this is exciting. Do we have time for me to tell you the story? Okay. So they're divided into stakeholder groups. And one of the stakeholder groups are things like land, forestry, and agriculture, clean tech, climate hawks, and island nations. These are different stakeholders that need to negotiate about climate, bringing down the temperature of the planet. And one of the stakeholder groups is world governments. Well, we had two actors who were playing the fossil fuel lobbyists who came around with money and would give groups money if they would vote against having the carbon fee and dividend put into place. And world governments took the money and canceled the carbon fee and dividend. So at the next go round of negotiations, I said, all right, everybody has to, when you come back, you have to tell me what other group you worked with and collaborated with in order to solve your obstacles, because each group had their own separate obstacles. Well, during that session, while they were all negotiating and moving around the room and talking on their own, they came back and said all the other groups got together to pressure world governments to put the carbon fee and dividend back in place.
I like that.
Which was nothing I've seen any of the adults do. And then the world governments group spoke up and said afterwards, when we all talk about how it went and what we learned, the whole debrief session, the world governments group of students, said, when there were no repercussions for us to take the money, and there was no consequences, so it was easy to do. But then after that negotiation where they all pressured it, they said we could take the money. In the beginning, we could take the money and stay in office because there was no consequences. But when they all got together and told us, you have to do this or you're out, then they said, oh, there's consequences. So we had to do it.
Wow.
And that was just a beautiful example of people realizing what power they have, especially when we all get together. And when we look at what stakeholders are involved. So not just person to person, that's good too, but we need to look at all the groups and tell all the groups and all the institutions, you depend upon a livable climate. It's up to you to join this movement. I would say even things like museums, they're preserving things for the future. Well, sorry, there isn't going to be a civilized future for them to preserve it to. They need to be honest. Say, we're lying to you. We can't preserve these things unless we work on reducing the temperature of the planet.
We have to.
So all these groups need to get together. Everyone needs to be on board, and we
on
need
the same page too.
Yes, and we need to
not arguing about my facts are right, yours are right. No, bring it all together and just try to meet in the middle.
Right, and stop the corruption in government. Corruption has been a big problem in Ohio.
Amen, sister.
Yeah.
Oh, I love you. I love her to death. She is speaking straight knowledge and truth, and this is what I want on my show. And I want her also to come back over and over again too, because I know she's going to have so many updates. So I want to make sure I recap on the parts about where beginners can start. Now, if I open up, say I'm just coming to you, I know nothing about climate change. I just know it exists, and I'm let's say a denier. Somebody, are you coming to me with this garbage?
Yeah.
What would you come to me with to start me as a beginner and say, read this? And I'm like, okay, I'll give it a little chance. Tell me what I can read first to get started.
I don't think I'd start out with reading. I think I'd start out with listening. Because people are coming from so many different places. Some people are coming from maybe a conservative political stance, or some are coming from a religious position. Some are I've had some certain religious people tell me that it's that we're not supposed to worry about the earth. We're not supposed to, make an idol out of the earth. We're supposed to just think about souls and that God's going to make a new one anyway. So we're supposed to just use this up and wear it out.
Right. That's why they're trying to build life or build stuff on other planets, because we're ruining this one too much, and they're trying to build stations on Mars and do all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah. You're going to go there and ruin that too? Because the same people that are ruining it here, you're going to move them up there?
Also, the worst place on Earth is better than the best place on any other planet that we can reach at all. Yeah. So, but anyway, I forgot what to say. Where were we at?
We're talking about...
right.
Where
people can listening to people when so it's good to start listening and say, well, what have you heard? And a lot of people times they'll say it's a natural cycles, and then I start with, okay, that's good. What makes Earth's climate? Let's look at what makes Earth's climate, and then we so they might need a little bit of that instruction. There are so many good curriculums out there. There's one called Our Climate, Our Future, which is really good for, I mean, it's a nice, easy way for adults to get into, but it's made for teens, like 13 to 18-year-olds.
So something that maybe keeps their attention span, because you know how some kids are like, boring. Got to give them something in sparklies and
Well,
and
this
lights.
one, yeah, and this one's good because the young people themselves present it, so that they can see.
Oh, that's good. So
Yeah.
they can,
they can see their
other
peers
people.
teaching about it, and they also have little snippets of people who have been through extreme weather events. You know, their house was in
They
a
can
flood or
testify
something.
to
Yes,
what they've been
testifying what
through.
it was like and why they're so passionate about not having it happen to anyone else.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
You asked what sources, though. There are so many good sources. There's so many good groups to join. Right here in Dayton, there's CCL, which is Citizens Climate Lobby. They're a wonderful group.
so they have a group in. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I did not even know that. See, that's why I said this is a reason to be informed and in order to understand, because I didn't even know some of these groups existed. So.
Mm-hmm. And it's not a huge time commitment. You get a notice every Thursday about a piece of legislation or a piece of information that you could call your representative about. And I'd like people to get in the habit of calling their representatives. We need to stay on them, whether they're for us or not. We need to call them and let our voices be heard. I don't know if many people have done it. Sometimes it's a little scary if people haven't done it before.
Right.
You just call the number and you can talk to one of their aides in the office and say, who you are and what you want to tell the representative. Sometimes you get a recording, and the third way then is to go online and make a comment on their comment sheet online. So what I do personally is I rotate every 3 days. So I call during open hours, then I call after hours and leave a message, then the next day I leave a digital message.
Oh,
And,
okay.
and my message is usually something like, climate change needs to be your priority. Don't vote against the environment. Stop empowering data centers. Stop voting for development of wetlands. I pick whatever individual thing is going on at the time, but I always want to keep climate change in the foremost of their mind, because they don't really care, because they think it's all going to happen after they're out of office anyway.
Right.
They don't realize how really vital their position is right now.
Right. Make a change while you can. Could you please relay your contact information, how people can get a hold of you in order to be able to find out about your classes and things like that?
Yes, the best way is my email, climateohio@gmail.com. So climateohio@gmail.com would be where you would contact me if you want an En-ROADS presentation, and I am so happy to do it for any. I'll do it for you and 4 friends, or I'll do it for a group of 200 people, or I'll do it
That's
for.
a good idea. I may actually have you together and get a few friends together and have you do it and make that another episode on the show and just show what you do.
Okay, that'd be fun. So the En-ROADS Solution Simulator is something really interesting because it shows all the human activities that will lower the temperature of the planet, such as making our energy more efficient. You can you can insulate buildings and make them use their energy more efficiently.
Yep.
That's a huge one right there.
Yes.
It's huge because the system we have right now is so inefficient. So just making our energy use more efficient really saves a lot of pollution.
Okay, and do you have any closing thoughts that you want to leave for the audience about climate change?
I want to say that this is the moment. This is the time. You're alive at this time for a reason. You're alive at this moment because you're part of the great work of preserving life and civilization for the future. And it's urgent. Why is it urgent? Because we're setting the stage for what will be in the future. Then will be basically unchangeable once it gets really set in place. We are creating the conditions that our future humans and all the wildlife too that we care about, all the beautiful species on this planet, those will depend on us right now and what we do in the next few years. It's escalating. It needs to stop escalating. And we need to be the ones to speak up and create an entire new plan. And actually, I want to convey that it will be better. It will be better than what we have. People worry that they don't see a future worth living into. That's because we have a dystopian, dirty fossil fuel type future in our minds, but we could have a clean solar punk future. A solar punk future is where things are clean, healthy, community, environmental, and we can create that together.
Amen. And I learn, educate, and apply. That's the way I see it. It's like, you learn the stuff, go out, spread the word, spread it to your friends. If they don't want to listen, that's all you can do. You can just present them with the truth. And make sure you attend her classes. Make sure you contact her because she is the knowledge. I love it. So thank you so much again for coming and doing my show. And I would love to have you on again in the future. Stay tuned for more from the Mika Wilkerson Show. And I will see you guys soon. Take care.